Hi everyone, I'm Carly of Gnarly Carley Gaming, and today I'm continuing my top 10 highly emotional board game series. Today I am talking about Terra Mystica. When people ask what my favorite game is, it's a question that I find really difficult to tackle. I know they're looking for some of the best games, and the typical answer I give them is Terra Mystica. It is a game that I found really early in my entry into the board game hobby, and it is one of the games that I would say made me a gamer, as well as one that has endured as one of my favorites even till this day. I had played and enjoyed family games growing up, and before college had even tried out some small games like Flux that a friend introduced me to at a bar I worked at in high school, but I really never found board games until I went to Ohio State. At Ohio State, in my first year on campus, I lived in one of the dorms, and one of the guys on my floor dragged me to the board game club at OSU called Bored to Death. I was a little intimidated by some of the bigger games at first, and primarily stuck to games like Avalon and Coup in the social deduction realm, as well as things like Suburbia and Splendor. It really wasn't until Terra Mystica that I tried a meatier game at all. One of the people I met at Board Game Club, his name was Eric, had bought Terra Mystica, and him and his wife had tried it out at 2 players, but that player count really just isn't ideal for this game. So they asked if I wanted to try it. I said I would be down, though I was a little nervous about it, and they brought it over to my dorm room. We set it up on the floor, and I had my first go of it, and it was absolutely awful. In the game, players play as one of up to 20 factions if you include the Fire and Ice expansion, and what you are trying to do is control the most territory across the board, as well as throughout the game and in endgame meet some variable scoring conditions. In almost every case, you start with 2 houses on the board from which you can expand. Each of them have a home terrain, like this one here, and what you do is you have to terraform terrain to your home terrain in order to build on it. From there, you can build up, houses can become larger structures, and larger structures in a big enough grouping can become a city, which is one of the ways in which you can score points. I say that most of the factions start with 2 houses because there is one, the Chaos Magicians, which are really fun and powerful, but they only start with 1 house to expand from. The game doesn't really recommend you give this to a starting player. They have 5 factions in particular that they list in the rulebook that new players should probably play as. All the different factions have special abilities and ways in which they grow, and those are kind of the most canon. So they give you the best sense of the game, and they have special abilities that can be helpful without being overly complicated. But instead, Eric ignored all that and gave me Chaos Magicians to start. Not only that, is he didn't teach me the complicated rules, and at the beginning of the game you have to choose where to put your house on the board, and he told me it didn't matter where I started. So I picked a corner, and he boxed me in right away. One of the cool things about how Terra Mystica is played is whatever you have built produces you specific kind of resources, with a little bit of variance from board to board and faction to faction in terms of what you get. You get those resources at the beginning of each round as income, and this is what fuels your engine. You continue to build and expand in a way that'll keep you going throughout the game. I was not able to build nor expand, and so my game was pretty much stifled before it ever started. And now this sounds like it's heading in the direction of why I hate Terra Mystica and also Eric, but that wasn't true. While it was very much jerk behavior to not teach someone the rules and then hose them from the start of their very first time playing a big game, I spent the whole game doing all of nothing, but super intrigued about figuring out exactly how everything fit together. Don't get me wrong, I knew I was screwed, but it was the first time I watched and played a game that I didn't immediately feel like I understood how everything worked and understood how I could do better next time. I certainly had ideas, like not getting hooked off in the corner, but I really just wanted a chance to delve into this game again and figure it out. But what made this game a puzzle to me before makes Terra Mystica still a puzzle for me today. There is so much variety in this game. Not only are you trying out different factions, you're also facing against different factions, and where you start on the board adds even more variety, meaning that each time you're learning and having new opportunities for growth, as well as have to face rivals in a new and interesting way. To add to that, there's round bonuses that mean even though I might be really good at building one type of structure, I might want to wait for a different opportunity to do so later in the game, as well as bonuses for income round to round that vary game to game, meaning you can't rely on a steady stream of the same resources, even if you were playing the exact same faction as last time. The start of your game will never look the same. How you amass points and ultimately secure victory will never be the same. Essentially, every game is its own puzzle that you have to contend with. Sure, you can get better at the game. I've played every faction numerous times, and I definitely have a better sense of what I need to be doing and how to best adapt the game. But the thing is, I still have to adapt. Just because I won with halflings before doesn't mean I will today if I'm not paying attention to the things I need to do that this game's laid out for me and what my rivals are doing each game. And while you don't need the expansions to enjoy the game, there's a whole lot of content in the base to get through. I think both of the expansions add a whole lot to the game. The Fire and Ice expansion gives you 6 new factions that are really a joy to explore, and the Merchants of the Sea expansion is not essential, but close to it. I think it is beyond incredible and has just stepped up what I already think is an amazing game. Merchants of the Sea offers not only a more balanced player board, but also introduces the mechanism of shipping that really incentivizes players to stay close together on the board. This may seem small, but in the base game it is very viable with some particularly strong factions that if they're able to start on the board far away from everybody, they can kind of let them compete for land and build up and expand and win without really any fun player interaction. It's not every game that happens, but it is a viable strategy in some cases, whereas Merchants of the Sea adds a shipping mechanism that gives you resources if you can ship 2 people, making both of you kind of want to be close to each other and on the waterfront. What this does is it really disincentivizes those players who kind of self-isolate because they're missing out on some key scoring mechanisms, and in some cases, the round bonuses as well as final scoring objectives can be deeply linked to the shipping track, meaning you'll actually be hosed unless you have that really fun, contentious player interaction. I joke a lot, but it's not really a joke, that I think 99% of the time I would be down for a game of Terra Mystica. And even if your friends don't hose you when you first try it out, I do think the hardest thing to get through is the first play. I was pretty messed up from the outset, so I didn't really have a chance to mess it up, but you probably will, and it can be really devastating when you do. Like I said, what you build really determines the resources you get and kind of fuels your engine. One bad round or one too early build can really stifle your growth and development. And additionally, you'll have to figure out how your faction works, and maybe the first time you play it, you don't do it in this ideal sense because you're figuring it out in addition to the entirety of the game. You will absolutely make mistakes, and that's okay. It takes far more than one game to really get a feel for Terra Mystica and to appreciate the beauty of it. But it is a puzzle so worth exploring. Once you start to have an idea of how the whole game flows together at large, each faction is such a joy to try out. We used to spin a wheel to decide who got which one, and the only thing that we couldn't do is take one that we've played before. And we would just go through and enjoy and play round after round of Terra Mystica, all trying to best each other or take new directions on different factions that we'd never seen before. I'm sure it'll surprise absolutely no one when I say that I happy cried when I was gifted Terra Mystica. I absolutely was enthralled to have my own copy, and I took it home over a break from school and taught it to all of my high school friends who all also properly became obsessed with the game. I showed it to my mom, who has since become a big gamer as well, and this game really just elevated the type of games that I felt like I could participate in. Granted, I couldn't figure it out at first, but I wanted to, and that ability to explore a game and feel like I could do so and make mistakes and try again and have that kind of be expected really made me a better gamer in the long run. I can look at a big box and know that I'll mess it up probably a lot the first time I play, but it's a joy to get to try. It's a joy to puzzle through some of these bigger games, and this is a puzzle that is still just one of the best I've ever known. I honestly think I might die before I ever get sick of this game, and while I resent when people ask me to pick a favorite game, I think Terra Mystica is about as close of an answer as I'll ever get. It is stupid close to my heart, and an obvious pick for one of my top 10.